Hi, and welcome to History's a Blast. This is Brewster, Ohio. It's May the 28th, 2025. This is the town that was founded by the Wheeling and Lake Erie Railroad when their old shops burnt down sometime around the turn of the century. And we're going to go into the visitor center, or the Historical Society in the old high school. So come along. We're in Brewster, Ohio, founded by the Wheeling and Lake Erie Railroad around the turn of the century after a fire destroyed the original shops buildings in another town. This is the Historical Society's little free for donations museum in the old high school. We are right across the street from the general offices, the Brewster Railroaders. Oh, look at that's a colorful uniform. Tools of the profession. Screw cutting lathe. Oh, there you go. Early machine tools. Nickel plate veterans. Nickel plate railroad, of course, headquartered out of Cleveland, and Conneaut is the location. Conneaut, Ohio, on the Lake Erie shore was where their major shops complex was, according to a book I read recently. Corner and go into the Veterans Museum while Mrs. History's a Blast reads all the captions, and later on comes back and tells me in post-production what I missed. Looks like this is a meeting room too. They've got tables stacked up over there. There's some World War I uniforms. Women's uniform. Oh, look at that Arctic outfit. Wow. Dedicated to the veterans. And of course, we just had our Day of Remembrance in the United States. Memorial Day last weekend. Okay. Well, here is the Veterans Wing of the Brewster, Ohio Historical Society's little museum. Very nice. Okay, let's go on around and see what else we can get into. We'll go and see what other kind of trouble we can get into on this rainy day on our first camping trip of the season, 2025. We drove about 11 miles from Brewster to the east, and we are at the site of the Fort Lawrence Museum. Fort Lawrence was a Revolutionary War fort. It's the only Revolutionary War fort to be built in Ohio. It lasted from 1778 into 1779. It was intended as a stepping stone for military raids farther west against the British allied Indian tribes in the Ohio Territory. We'll read why the fort didn't last and those expeditions came to naught, hopefully later on in walking through here. But it's the state memorial just outside of Bolivar, and it's right alongside Interstate 77, which, I mean, I'm right next door to it here. You can hear it in the background, the noise from the road. The museum is open May through October on weekends only, and we're not going to be here on weekends, so we'll just have to do it ourselves here. There is a nice little museum here. Looks nice anyway. There's a series of storyboards that you can come and read and familiarize yourself with the Revolutionary history in the Ohio country. The Ohio country wasn't open to settlement until after the American Revolution, and there were a number of Indian wars that were fought against the tribes that were still not happy about Americans expanding west of the Ohio into their territory. Some books have been written on it. I've got a title I'll put up on the screen here for you that I recommend. So, looks like it's worth a visit. War in the Ohio country bore little resemblance to the rest of the American Revolution. It was bloody, it was guerrilla warfare. Atrocities were committed on both sides. The Continental Army and the Americans did not cover themselves with glory in the way they treated the British allied Native Americans. The war on the frontier was often bloody and vicious, and affected all men, women, and children that got in the way of it. It's a drizzly day, and I'm getting my feet wet. The British were involved, of course, and to their discredit, they continued to be involved well into the early 19th century, inciting and arming Native American tribes against the now independent United States in their efforts to expand into territories which had been ceded to them by the British. But of course not the Native Americans who were allied with the British. And here's a treaty line called the Greenville Treaty Line. It was one of the temporary stoppages of the warfare between the United States and the Native Americans in the 1790s, right up through the War of 1812. Here we are with the American Indian involvement. There's an image of Chief Cornstalk, who later became a peacemaker. Fort Lawrence, by the way, named after the man who at the time in 1778 through 1779 was the president of the Continental Congress. I just recognized what this little pathway is in the grass. This is the outline of the fort. In fact, we are standing, I'm in the middle, walking into the middle of one of the bastions. Diamond-shaped bastion where artillery pieces would have been put. And so the fort is basically stuck in the middle of the wall, on the outside of what would have been the wall, and we are right here in the middle. I'm in the middle of a bastion. This might be the northwestern bastion of Fort Lawrence, and just through those bushes, Fort Lawrence gets cut off by the right-of-way of Interstate 77. Wow, neat. And they say there's nothing to do on a rainy day in Ohio's Amish country. Wow. Come to Fort Lawrence and have fun jumping on a trampoline under the shade of a big old tree. Yuck, yuck, yuck. I'm going to take a swag and say that these concrete tree trunks are placed where they dug post holes through archaeology. I'm just going to go out on a limb here. Here's another bastion. And I'm going to take a guess without having read the storyboard that might talk about it. But here we are at the other extremity of Fort Lawrence. You can see the extent of it. There's the inner sanctum of it. Neat, really neat. And the Ohio and Erie Canal came right through here too. It's a blueprint map of the Ohio Canal going right through the middle of Fort Lawrence. Maybe that's how they knew it was here. Jeez. Now, what's left of it is more or less part of the embankment of Interstate 79. And that, as they say, is progress. Well, that's probably it for this time. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll look at some of our other ones. See you soon.